fucking sell the damn products, man. Write the damn email. Set up the damn website. Stop looking for easy does it solutions to something that you're going to have to do or someone is going to have to do. And chances are, if you don't do it yourself, it's just going to be way worse. It's just going to be so much worse. Just sell to the damn fans, dog.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast brought to you by Entrepreneur.io.
What's up, indies? Welcome back to Creative Juice. This is the podcast where we talk about growing and monetizing a fan base and building a music career with marketing strategies that are working right now based on what we see every single day inside our music marketing agency and across our community of thousands of artists and bands. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. This is episode 381. I'm your host, Jack McCarthy, here to talk to you today about direct-to-fan, direct-to-consumer, how it's not new, what you need to know about it, how you need to arm yourself for success. And with me, as always, is my lovely partner and comrade, Circa. Cirque, what's up, dude?
Not a whole lot, friend. Psyched to talk about it.
Me too, man. This episode was inspired by our friend and frequent guest of the podcast and our client at IndieX, Dame Ritter. Dame posted about a week ago on I saw this on Threads, but I think he might have posted in a few places. Dame is a manager. He works with Big Jaw, who is one of our clients at IndieX, and he's the man. He's been on the podcast plenty of times. We'll link to show notes where we've had the pleasure of speaking with Dame about all the cool stuff that he does. He's also the director of communications at Two Lost Distribution. Dame posted the other day, and this got me really fired up, man. He said, all these music and film execs talking on social media like direct-to-consumer is a new thing, and then the face palm emoji. Independent creators have been going direct-to-consumer for decades, and all creative ideas start with the independent folks and then get stolen by major entities and celebrated as new. And then he said, The Lesbian Homie Season 4 is out now on Big Jaw's own website, sold directly to his fans. Thanks for supporting independent creators. So it was a nice opportunity to support Jaw's new launch, which has been amazing, by the way. We can talk about that some other time on the show, I'm sure. But this post got me really fired up because it brought me back to a conversation that we had probably about a month and a half ago when we had Jonah McLean, aka Dukes, on our podcast here to talk about Indie Founder and the Indie Founder success stories that we've been seeing with clients in the program. And we talked about how we've been hearing like direct to fan more and more as a buzzy kind of word in music and how it makes us feel disgusting and gross. And Dame's post here kind of reinvigorated that fire for a minute in me. And so we wanted to bring to today's conversation, talking about direct to consumer, how the music industry can't co-opt it from you, and what you need to know about it, how you need to think about it, what brings us here today, and where the future of this whole D2C direct to fan thing is going, at least in our experience as the ones who have been waving the direct to consumer flag for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, first, shout out Dukes. You mentioned Dukes. I'm wearing a shirt right now.
Yeah.
So shouts. We did it. No thanks or congratulations needed. Finally, the rest of the music industry world is acquiescing to our viewpoint.
Bend to our will industry.
Yeah. It's kind of a bittersweet moment to see so much stuff being raised about direct to consumer. I think if we were ever to see a time when it became consensus opinion that the right approach for artists was to go direct to consumer, we would expect that necessarily all of the suits would come along for the ride. There would be tons of like people that we don't necessarily identify with, like, saying the things that we're saying and thinking the things that we think. And so, you got to kind of take that in stride. But that said, like, I think it's important for us to have this discussion and talk about it and contextualize it for our whatever audience is listening so that it can't be co-opted,
Yeah, 100%. I actually want to kick off with that because that was kind of the big talking point that came to my mind is like direct to consumer as a marketing model, I'll call it, or even a business model. We can call it it goes beyond marketing and it just goes into a business model. Direct to consumer, direct to fan has way more to do with fan monetization and customer monetization than anything that the music industry will try to incorrectly attach it to. And I think that's the risk of it being co-opted is industry executives, labels, etc., will find ways to weaponize this term at the expense of artists and creatives that don't know better to suit their purposes and to drive attention towards things that really aren't in the spirit of actually creating customers, actually creating businesses that have revenue. And that's kind of like maybe a little bit of a tinfoil hat or a boogeyman sort of thing that keeps me up at night. But I think with good reason, you know?
Yeah. So like, let's get really clear about terms here. When we say direct to fan, recognize that someone has to be direct to fan always, right? At the end of the day, the fan buys the music, buys the tickets, buys the merchandise. So at the end of the day, someone had to be direct to fan in the equation somewhere. But the music industry has long had a practice of seeing just how many people they can put into the chain before someone ever actually has to like sell to fans. Can we get a manager, a tour manager, a publisher, an agent, a booking agent, a record label, and then like a rights manager? Can we get like as many people as possible until finally someone hires someone that actually says, yes, I will do the transaction with the fan?
Dude, it's dilution of the business model.
Right. And every person in that chain is taking a cut, which is why the artist has traditionally gotten so little, among other reasons. That said, like, this isn't a revolutionary concept, dude.
Yeah.
Any business, any startup business has necessarily had to be direct to customer, direct to fan since time immemorial, because like there's no way to conceive of a business without someone having to interact with customer. So it's obvious like that this was always had to be the case. And historically, artists were sold a bill of sale. They were advertised a set of features in which the person that they gave 80 or 90% of their revenue to said, we're going to be the direct to consumer. We're going to handle all that. And so that's kind of why it's such a misnomer for them to say like, yo, direct to fan is the future. It's like, well, it's the past too. You know, like it's always had to happen. The only difference here is that no one was doing it before. Like everyone refused to do it.
You just put the bag over the artist's head and pretended like it wasn't happening while you took the money from them.
Yeah. And then more importantly,
and you didn't do it very well either, by the way.
Yes. And the reason I'm clarifying that here is so that you know the pattern. The pattern is let's extract premium that would otherwise go to the artist by inserting ourselves between them and the fan. Direct to fan is never going to be put more people between yourselves and fans, put more people and more barriers between the artists and the fans. And if anyone tries to sell you something or get you to agree to something by which like you're going to be direct to fan now and do this direct to fan strategy, but it involves expanding the amount of people between you and your fans, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's a ploy to steal your money. Just recognize that.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you're going to hear things like direct to fan platform, direct to fan platform. Something you put between you and your fans to be more direct to fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's going to start to pop up a lot.
Well, there's been tons of direct to fan platforms, if you think about it. Like, we've had Bandcamp for a very long time. We've had, we were just talking before we started rolling, we were talking about Mod Life, which was a platform that was built in like 2007 by Tom DeLonge from Blink-182. Before Bandcamp was even a thing, I think. It was like the early days direct to fan platform. It was like too early for its time, really. And it was a D2C platform. Shout out to our friend Tony Hartman, actually. He was posting about this on LinkedIn last week. Tony worked at Moment when we met a few years ago, and he was posting about this. And the post really continued to drive this fire in me to be like, oh, we need to talk about this. There's more and more buzz going around this. And he got into like the decentralization of direct to fan and what it means for no one to own it. And that's kind of what we're getting on about here.
Yeah, it's an anti-pattern. What we call in programming an anti-pattern. It's something that cannot work that people implement anyways. Meaning like there's no such thing as a direct-to-fan platform. There is a less direct-to-fan platform, but direct-to-fan platform is an oxymoron necessarily, right? In programming, all of the databases, most of them that you would want to use are written in what's called a SQL query. You have to write this like sort of pseudo English language, like if, select from this database table where like this column equals this value. Like you have to do this query that no one really, like most people don't know. They know their programming language like Python or JavaScript. They don't know SQL query. And so they'll use something called an ORM to obfuscate the need to write the SQL query. They can write their own language and it'll convert it into SQL query. But when you do that, everything starts to really suck. Everything really breaks down because you're trying to avoid the simple fact that you just need to write the damn SQL query. Don't learn an ORM to avoid having to learn how to write 3 or 4 lines. That's too much indirection, too much abstraction to make your life easier. It's only going to make your life harder. And in this case, there's a definite corollary, which is just fucking sell the damn products, man. Write the damn email. Set up the damn website. Stop looking for easy does it solutions to something that you're going to have to do or someone is going to have to do. And chances are, if you don't do it yourself, it's just going to be way worse. It's just going to be so much worse. Just sell to the damn fans, dog.
This points to what artists have been doing for a very long time. Artists who actually have leaned into direct to consumer as a business model. They've been selling to their fans without the need for a D2C or direct to fan platform to be in the middle of them. Now, that's not to say that there aren't direct to fan tools that are helpful for you to use. Let's talk about like Bandcamp as like sometimes the gateway drug to direct to consumer for artists. Sure, great. It's there for you. Eventually you graduate to a store that you own, that's yours, a Shopify store or whatever.
Yeah, we could draw the distinction as saying just like, can you call it something else? Is its main purpose not actually a direct-to-fan platform? Like, for instance, Shopify, right? It's not a D2C platform. It's an online store builder.
Yeah.
And needing to build an online store is a function of going direct-to-consumer. See what I mean? The distinction? Drip is an email marketing platform. Needing to mass email a list of people is a downstream necessity of having gone direct-to-consumer. So you see how like trying to bundle all of these things in one mandates some kind of like necessarily D2C platforms have to mandate like your pricing. They have to mandate certain designs of your online assets. They provide a limited menu of choices you can make. Do you want D2C green, large, or do you want D2C orange, small?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
They give you they take the whole spectrum of options, narrow it down to what they surmise is probably appropriate for most use cases, charge you a massive, unacceptable premium, or otherwise limit your revenue potential. They tell you this is going to be easier for you in the long run. And like locally, that's true. It will be easier in maybe the next 2 weeks, maybe the next 2 months, maybe even the next 2 years. But eventually it's going to be broadly inappropriate. And in that time, you will have been running in sand. You could have been running on ground where you were getting every dollar and going faster, but you've been running in sand the whole time. And there's no telling what that slowdown is going to do to you in a 10-year time frame. What would have been different in 10 years if you had just ran on the ground from the get-go,
It's the cost of change, right? The cost of constantly changing things. And this is something that I caution artists towards all the time is like, if you find yourself seduced by every new platform that comes your way. I mean, email marketing is a really good example. Like I've had artist clients at IndieX who have email lists with customer data for, hundreds of thousands of contacts, hundreds of thousands of people. And they're like, oh, but what if we try this platform instead? What if we moved to this one? And it's like, why don't you stick with what's working for you and not that? Because you don't know what the downstream effect of doing that is. You don't know what impact that's going to have. You don't know what it's going to look like if all of a sudden your sending domains get messed up and now your emails are hitting people's spam inboxes. You have no idea what's going on in the background. And that's okay. I'm not saying you need to know everything, but I'm saying there's probably better things to focus your attention on. And the same is true when we get into this direct to fan D2C conversation. Is like, no, maybe don't switch your membership from Patreon to something else. Maybe you don't need a custom build, or maybe you don't want to move from your custom build to the hot new thing that's on the market right now for direct to fan monetization. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should just stick with what's working.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd say membership is a special case. Like if you're going to do a membership product, it's the one place where I would say like, don't roll your own to start. You know, it's just like is vastly more difficult. So Patreon is like an acceptable trade-off, maybe, but that's neither here nor there. The point being is that like the only reason you would choose a platform for facilitating the style of business you want to run is if you were incredibly short on time. And we've seen time and again from the most successful long-term people that the one difference between what they're saying and what everyone else is saying is slow down. Get ready for a long haul. Get yourself into a situation where you can do this for 10 years and stop worrying about how fast other people are going or how fast you think you should be going. What matters is that you can show up every day for years, you know? So it's like, don't be expedient. Don't try to like get a platform that's going to allow you to strike everything up in a day, especially if they're going to take a cut and limit your options. So yeah, just to say that like, that's probably going to increase. It's been increasing for the last like 6 years. We've seen like all these different like platforms come up. This one takes 10%, that one takes 20%, this one takes 15%, all to do stuff that like Jack or I could do in an afternoon because we've learned how to do it with typical business tools, not stuff that like treats artists like they're too dumb to grok stuff that like total idiots learn how to do every day. Like,
well, I mean, let's talk about just like the state of D2C in general, right? There are some things that I think artists need to know as a baseline to understanding the business model of direct to consumer. And you can learn that by looking in the wild at businesses that sell products online. Interesting, isn't it, that they sell products online to their customers? A lot of times it's physical goods. You know what else you sell as an artist? Usually physical goods, sometimes digital goods. Great. Both of those things are easily paid attention to in the wild. It's something that you can very easily observe and watch. And there's a lot of really great businesses and brands that run direct to consumer. They sell directly to their customers with no distribution base. And what I mean by that is like, you might not find them in Costco.
Nor did they get on the news or have a viral video.
Right.
None of these things were prerequisites.
For sure. Something to think about is what these businesses are trying to do is they're selling directly to their customers. They're working to increase the lifetime value of those customers over time. And they're usually selling one core product and then selling more of it or additional products around it. Where artists might differ a little bit from that model is like for artist brands and D2C, you might have product seasons, right? Where you're in a launch season and that might last a year. That might last 2 years, depending on how long it's taking you to recreate the next thing that the next music product that you're going to be selling, or the next physical piece of music that you're going to sell to your fans, the collection, the album, the EP, whatever it might be. But you have seasons, right? And you sell things around that core offer throughout those seasons. That might be tickets for experiences, for tour dates, whatever it might be. It might be additional merch. It might be variants of that offer. It might be more expensive, higher value bundles of that. But that exists in seasons, and that's a little bit different from a lot of like traditional D2C brands, unless you're talking about like a brand that sells some things in the winter and some things in the summer. And that exists too. So even there, you can observe what's going on.
Yeah. And I mean, that said, like, there are like core entryway products that we've seen artists like sell, like move like 100,000 units of. So it can be the case that you have like your bread and butter product that creates customers. But yeah, as Jack was saying, the math behind D2C, really the math behind all businesses, it's differently communicated in a B2C context or direct to consumer, direct to fan context. It's been expressed multiple ways. The original way was by Jay Abraham, who, if you don't know who he is, look him up. Like, you
The
could only
goat.
ever learn good things from Jay Abraham. And he originally had said there's 3 ways to grow a business. You can increase your customers. So customers are people who have bought anything from you, unique individuals and or businesses who have bought anything from you. You can grow that list. You can get more customers, or you can increase the amount of transactions that an average customer has. That means make more offers. You can make more offers. You know, let's say the average person buys 3 things from you, but you only have 2 like offers that you ever make to people through various means. Maybe it's on your website. It's an offer that's like publicly available. Maybe you send out an email to anyone who joins your email list with another offer. And on average, people buy about 3 things. Well, you can install more offers that are unique from the 2 you already have. And then you will grow. The average person will have more purchases, transactions. So that's number 2. Grow customers. Number 1, get more. Number 2 is get more transactions per customer. Number 3 is make each transaction on average worth more. That can be by raising your prices. It can be by offering more expensive things, thereby bringing up the average. There's a couple different ways to go about it. Hormozy condenses this into 2. He just says you can get more customers or you can make customers worth more. So whether it's by more transactions or more high value transactions, whatever, make them worth more. 2 ways. That's the fundamental math. So when Jack says increase their LTV, he's saying increase their lifetime value, meaning on average, you know, by introducing more offers, by introducing higher priced items or raising your base prices on the items you already sell, you will be able to raise the average lifetime value of a customer. That is, take all the money your business has ever brought in via sales, divide it by all the customers you've ever served, and that's your average lifetime value. And Hormozy augments that as well. He says like lifetime gross profit per customer. So I don't care if they bought like on average $500 if it costs you $499.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's a helpful distinction to make, is like the actual profit you take home is actually more important than the lifetime value. Although one could argue, well, it doesn't matter if my costs are super high. I can drop those over time as long as my LTV like starts off really high. Different ways to think about it, just to say, you can condense this all down to really simple principles, and everything you do in a business should seek to positively impact one of these aspects.
And these are really the things you're not going to hear when you start listening to the buzz around direct to fan in music. And that was the reason that we really wanted to do like a bit of a crash course here on like, here's the line items. Here's a bullet point list. Here's a checklist that you can arm yourself with when you come across the new platform or somebody who's talking about like D2C this, D2Fan that. Think about these things. Think about the business model as it is behind all of the hype. Because if you don't know those things, it's really easy to find yourself ensnared in like a chain of things in between you and your fan. You're not really direct to fan anymore. It's like hot potato towards your fan, you know? And that's what we wanted to bring to the show today and to hopefully help you guys avoid. I would be really curious to know, what do you think like the future of outside of these like nefarious tinfoil hatty things that you and I just talked about, which like it's only tinfoil hat if it doesn't come true, and it's coming true. But what do you see as like the future for direct to consumer for artists who actually embrace it in a way that's appropriate? A strong business model.
You know, like COINTELPRO, MK Ultra, like these would be considered tinfoil hat before everyone found out that they were actually true and declassified. Like these are conspiracy theories that became true. That's tinfoil hat, maybe. This is not tinfoil hat. This is like publicly available information, widely reported on, well known by pretty much every participant in the industry that we're talking about. This is not a secret. The only thing that makes it tinfoil hat is that everything about your experience in the industry conditions you to, for some odd reason, convince yourself that, oh, it's just not true. Or like maybe you found the cool people in the industry. Like they don't exist. Like, they don't exist, guy. So like I sort of rebuke the notion that this is tinfoil hatty, just because it's like, man, how many points do you need on the graph before you can draw a line, dude?
Yeah. 100%. You know, I said that so that you could say that. I set up the joke.
Yeah. So that said, just speaking a little more broadly and generally, and maybe philosophically for a second, I find that centralized businesses where there's less decentralization, right? Amazon's a form of decentralization. You might think, isn't Amazon incredibly centralized? It's like, yes, well, it is, but it also democratizes selling online. So you have literally hundreds of thousands of suppliers every time you run an Amazon search that you're interacting with. You don't even have to know you're interacting with them. So it is decentralizing in a way. Shopify is decentralizing. Email marketing is decentralizing. Everything decentralizes over time as technology increases. Technology up and to the right, decentralization up and to the right. Thereby, it seems to be a byproduct of technological innovation that the distribution of productive goods and services gradually decentralizes. And so I really actually believe that things are just going to become more decentralized until the point that it's almost meaningless. And that's not necessarily unilaterally a good thing for your pockets, but I think we're headed towards an age of like infinite abundance. I hate to like sort of smack like an accelerationist, but like it kind of seems that technology is putting us on a path towards like the meaninglessness of money. Like we might not need money in the way that we've traditionally thought about it. And so I was going super high level for a second, just bring it back down to earth, is that I think that we're going to continue to decentralize the means of distribution, promotion, production. I mean, music production has been decentralizing rapidly for the last 20, 30 years. First with the advent of digital. So we went from tape to digital, and that democratized things significantly. The cost to start up a studio was dramatically lowered, not lowered to the level of the individual, but lowered by a lot. And that only continued as I saw a video the other day where someone was talking about how technology sucks today. And it's like, no, it doesn't, dude. The thing you're pointing out is that we used to fool ourselves into thinking that technology wasn't just a synonym for computers. You had a phone and you had the console, and these are all just computers. They're just packaged differently. The uniform capabilities of computers are such that, well, we stopped fooling ourselves with that in music too. In music, it became obvious, oh, this computer is a general tool for creating any form of music at any point, right? So it's like, once that became obvious and we were able to democratize even further from digital to like everything happens in the box. You don't need any outboard gear. Everything happens in the box. So music production and recording totally democratized. You do not need a financier to record a record. You don't need someone who was educated for 8 years in a technical college to be able to record or make your record. You don't even need to be particularly great at an instrument from a physical perspective, right? So biomechanics are like not a necessary prerequisite to making great music. Writing, like everything's just coming down. So it's going to get to the point where anyone of any level of skill will be able to produce music that to us sounds palatable. That's going to happen. The means of distribution continue to unravel, right? Like it used to be that like, oh, well, we could produce CDs, which are a lot cheaper to produce than vinyl. So the cost is lowered to your level. No, not yet, but it was lowered. Tape and then CDs made it much cheaper. And then the cost of distributing CDs is way lower than the cost of distributing vinyl. I think we would all agree, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So just from a raw weight perspective. And the amount of factories that can produce CDs and the machines that produce them far less centralized than the machines that can produce vinyl. And then trickle all the way down to like, oh, it's a digital file.
Yeah.
All the gains here won't even be recognizable, though there are still gains. There are gains. As the internet becomes faster, distribution becomes better. Basically, distribution decentralizes at the rate that the internet improves. So it's now coupled to the rate of like all computing. And then financing decentralized. Now artists have access to financing. It's general. It is agnostic to what your business type is. Do you have Stripe receipts? Do you have PayPal receipts? Cool. We'll loan you money.
Right. Yeah.
No problem. Not even Stripe PayPal receipts. Like, do you have a business that's in function and it has a bank account with some statements that look favorable? We'll give you money now.
Dude, I have a friend that runs a capital company that their service is helping entrepreneurs, oftentimes small ones that are just getting started, get access to finance, get access to capital through credit cards.
Yeah, you can even have an idea now and they'll give you money.
Yeah.
In a way that you used to have to raise, like you used to have to angel raise to get.
Yeah.
So just say that, like, I just covered like 4 of the main things that people thought record labels were necessary for. Okay. Distribution, financing, production, and then, well, I guess the next one, promotion. Promotion, massively decentralized, right? Not only every stage of promotion, producing material, promotional material, super decentralized. Everyone has a phone now. If you have a phone, you have a media like production facility in your pocket.
Yeah.
Like
Crazy.
compared to like 20 years ago. Like the cameras in your phone are better than production quality cameras, production grade cameras 20 years ago. So,
dude, you know what's crazy, to underline that for a second? Think about music videos from some of your favorite artists that from like the 1990s and the 2000s, let's say, when they were coming up. So it was their lower budget videos. And by lower budget, meaning like they probably spent $5,000 or $10,000 on a video. And you knew it didn't really look that great compared to the flashy, expensive music videos that were being produced at the time by like the big artists. But you were like, sick, this is a great video from this artist. Now, an iPhone video crushes those, and it's $100, a month in your pocket or whatever it costs to finance an iPhone.
Yeah. And the things that make your iPhone video look shittier than that video have nothing to do with the recording equipment. The recording equipment is light years better. The additional things, cinematics, lighting primarily, lighting and fog really, and then like motion control, sliding. Those are the things that make it look better, but even those have democratized. So I can get a light now for like $130 that like if I were to buy it in the 1970s or 1980s, like it would be tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Chip on board LEDs, like these, like everything has become easier. That's just in the production aspect of making stuff that qualifies as promotional material. You can make infinity of it for no additional cost if you already have any late model smartphone of any quality level. It's already 4K. So everything's been crushed. Now, I could go through the rest of all the faculties that in the 70s you would have had to sign some kind of deal to get access to unless you were already of means. But like, that's kind of pointless. You can see that like, you could kind of take me at my word at this point in the argument that like,
it's decentralization all the way down.
All the way down. Everything is easier, cheaper, faster, and it will only continue to get that way. And it now is, most of these things are just coupled to the rate of advancement in technology in general, because again, computing is general. As computers and the internet get better, all of these things get better. They are coupled to information technology now, and their speed of advancement is the speed of advancement of everything. So, okay. So given that, isn't that great? Doesn't that mean you'll be able to make infinity money and like everything's good? It's like, well, no, because that also necessarily means that you will have more competition for people's finite attention than you ever have before. Every day there will be more competition out there than there was the previous day. And that's only going to continue aggressively until pretty much the whole world is your competition. It's going to be very hard to get people to pay attention to your things. Like, it just will. And probably around the time that like paying attention to my thing becomes meaningless, I very much believe that somewhere in the next 10 years, I won't need creators to satisfy my entertainment needs. I just won't. I just don't think I will. And so the dynamics of it change. I'll just say that. I think that's where we're headed, where direct to consumer is a lot more about, I'll give you an example. Do you know who the most popular internet personality is of the last year?
No.
It's Asmongold. Do you know who Asmongold is?
Nope.
He's a World of Warcraft Twitch streamer who then began doing React videos that then began centering not only around culture and media, but around politics. And now he's like among the most popular political commentators in the world, but he's not a political commentator. He's a video game streamer. And all he really had to do to become the world's number one, I mean, first of all, he's like among the most searched people. He's above the NBA in terms of Google searches. And it just goes to show you that like all he needed was to be likable on screen. If you are likable on screen, then that is a general bootloader for an audience. And then he can do whatever he wants with that audience. He can produce whatever kind of content he wants. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
So it's more about, do people like you and like what you have to say, than it is about what are you doing? Then it is about how revolutionary is the thing you're producing. It's more and more going to be about, do people like you? And do people think you're funny or charismatic? And do they like how you explain or talk about things? Even for musicians, it's going to be that. So that's where I see it all going. And I think that the tool, like insofar as you position yourself to be that, you're going to have a better time. I know that that wasn't the answer you necessarily really, you didn't want me to go that far in the future, maybe, but that's kind of where I see it heading.
No, I think that's a good, deep exploration of the landscape of, it goes beyond the landscape of direct to consumer or direct to fan. It's talking about like how business models will shift.
Especially entertainment.
Yeah, especially entertainment. Yeah.
It's also the case that like, hey man, labels are effed. Like labels are effed, dude. Yeah. Administrative like business regimes are effed. That's my view.
We'll close with that. I love it. I love it. Hopefully this gives you guys a crash course in D2C, direct to fan, gives you things to think about. Look at how it applies to your business today and where you can potentially cut out some of the middlemen that might have inadvertently squeaked their way into your business and standing in the way of you actually being direct to fan if you find yourself in that position. But I hope you guys dug this. We'll catch you next time on Creative Juice. Peace out.
East Coast, West Coast, say what?